When my mum first arrived, she said, the white children wouldn't accept her, but with her fair complexion, the few black peoples at her school wouldn't accept her either. People's Collective Wales, 2016. Over time, beauty standards force us to damage our hair chemically, programming us to hate ourselves. It allowed for institutionalised colorism to pave a new way for racism. As children, we should have seen the representation of ourselves. I chose to discuss this topic in video format to make the content more digestible for my audience, which is imperative as black education is not taught sufficiently within the UK educational system. I chose to discuss this topic because I don't know a lot about my identity, and I don't know a lot about hair. There was no social representation for me growing up. My nan always told me, your hair is your crown, and I never understood the importance until now, as we're programmed to idolise Eurocentric beauty standards. In the 1500s, communities with...
For example, a braided hairstyle called the partes, meaning depart in English, was signal that the person wanted to escape. Black women would also record with their braids the obstacles they would encounter on their journeys to...
Everything about black culture in the UK has been rooted in the Afro-Caribbean background. Tainted by the Eurocentric view, this video essay will investigate how black identity and hair are perceived through the British cultural lens. I will host a series of interviews and examine black culture, critically analysing several texts to help me clarify viewpoints and ideas around this matter. I will revisit several sources during my research to compile still imagery and video footage. This will help me communicate with the viewer and capture their attention to convey the topic's importance. This video dissertation will present preliminary information using interviews with participants aged 20 to 60. Most are women, and one male has extensive knowledge of the Black British history. When did the first black people in Britain arrive? Dehumanisation, what is it? What's the significance of our hair? Where does our identity start? But where does dehumanisation come into it? Dehumanisation means depriving someone of human qualities as listed in Collins 2023. For example, in formal portraits, these little black boys appear alongside their masters and their mistresses as human ornaments. Lusoga 2020, page 87. Human Zoos 2023 shows us another example with human zoos, the term used for a phenomenon of the late 19th and 20th century, where exotic human beings from all over the world were publicly exhibited. Most of us tend to think that black people came to Britain after the war, Caribbeans on the Empire Windrush in the 1948, Bangladeshis after the 1971 war, and Ugandan Asians after Idi Amin's expulsion in 1972. Wood, 2012. Singer, 2013, explains how the first black Britons arrived as soldiers in the Roman armies in the 2nd and 3rd centuries AD. They rebuilt and were stationed along Hadrian's Wall. They were under the rule of Septimus Severus, a black Roman empire based in York. Records show that black men and women have lived in Britain in small numbers since at least the 12th century, Sadu 2011. These are facts that should have been taught to us in history classes. Facts like this cause you to stop and think about the black presence within the UK. Black Britons have been around for over 2,000 years, but still face persecution today. Identity formation and evolution are impacted by various internal and external factors like society, family, loved ones, ethnicity, race, culture, location, opportunities, media, interests, appearance, self-expression, and life experiences, as explained by Y Studios 2020. 4/9/2020 suggests Black youngsters are affected by things such as implicit racism bias within the curriculum. And when young black people aren't being taught about their history within Britain, their sense of identity and belonging is negatively impacted, as well as their social relations. Without knowing, society is stripping young black individuals of the remarkable history we shared and leaving us with a sense of having no identity, a place of no belonging, a state of semi-permanent uncomfortability. Our society has removed the identity footprints of black individuals whilst building up false narratives throughout history, resulting in a whitewashed version that doesn't provide us with the whole truth. Black individuals have to ask their families for their accounts, and they don't want to disclose or relive the trauma. The system colorises individuals and we can't escape it. Adentia 2020 wrote on how black health is affected by racism. The Royal College of Nursing came out last week to admit they've got a big problem with how black and other nurses from ethnic minorities are treated. As a black person in the UK, you are 4 times more likely to be detained under the Mental Health Act than a white person. Black women in the UK are 5 times more likely than white women to die during childbirth. Where does this all end? When will we get a fresh start? Does hair and identity shape us? What is black hair? What is good hair? Does it change how we're treated?
So I'll even think back of that Beyonce song. I can't remember the name, but she mentions Becky with the good hair. And I think in the video that Becky with the good hair is her hair being more westernized looking, coming out straighter and longer. And I think that's what people see as good hair.
Good hair is anything you want it to be. So it's different for everyone. There's really no pinpoint you can put on it because it's up to you.
Good hair can't be defined under one definition. It's polysemous. Good hair is often referred to as the Eurocentric view, but is defined differently by everyone. As well as this, Sprott 2023 highlights something important. The impact of the transatlantic slave trade on how society perceives Afro hair is still present today, resulting in black and mixed race people feeling as though they need to straighten their hair to fit in, with concepts of good, looser curls, soft texture, and bad, kinkier, more dense hair textures, formulating ideas about the acceptable appearance of black people's hair. The view on black hair is not our perception. We allow society to dictate our norms and justify our actions against this in the fear of cancel culture. It is unequivocally present that every black child will face some form of racism before they reach adolescence. Dating back to slavery, the heads of enslaved children and adults were shaved before the treacherous transportation to strip them from their identity. Teo Barrow 2021 said, "These Eurocentric beauty standards have consistently cast black people as deviant or abnormal because they didn't fit into narrowly defined parameters of how white people saw beauty. The view on people with black hair decides our identity through assumptions: uneducated, poor, dangerous, loud, or animalistic. However, black hair can't get away that easily. Others have always classified black hair. Tori Sprout 2023 explains how Ruby Williams is a young person who faced hair discrimination at a school in London. She was told that her hair was a distraction and too big, and as a result she was sent home on multiple occasions, disrupting her learning. The absence of racism towards a young black child classifies them as lucky if they don't meet some form of colorism. Black parents still need to educate their children on racism, as the issue isn't improving. Collin et al. 2018 mentions a study by Kenneth Clark and Mamie Phipps Clark in their book where they look at the psychological effects of segregation on African American school children aged 3 to 7. It showed distressingly, black children showed a clear preference for the white dolls and a rejection of the black dolls, which can be interpreted indirectly as self-rejection. This shows why many black women still struggle to accept themselves and how early the biases are exposed. They go through a mirage of trends to fit in, never genuinely understanding who they are or their ancestry, never understanding where the self-rejection comes from or the curiosity behind their skin colour or hair type. But Generation Z is making a difference, breaking the current molds and setting higher standards. What does Eurocentric mean? What are beauty standards? How do they affect how we are seen? How is colorism ingrained into society? What changes can we all make? What is it like to be black? Eurocentric beauty standards. Beauty standards that favour European features, such as small nose and fair skin, over those of any other culture or ethnicity. Because of this, people who aren't white are usually considered less beautiful. Richard E., 2021. As a society, we have only just begun to see the change in how black people are portrayed in the media. Aketikun J. 2023 says,
Than my natural hair, I felt very much insecure because it was a thing where I felt like my natural hair wasn't like other black girls' hair, and it wasn't obviously white people hair.
Explains how.
Back in the 70s, they recognised that black kids were failing in schools and they wanted to know why. So they did a study called the Rampton Report, and the Rampton Report argued that it was the teachers' low expectation of black people, and that it was the teaching methods, etc., and what they were doing. That's what was failing the black kids. In other words, they couldn't be bothered to teach us, and because they thought we couldn't be educated.
The residential, and on the first night, all the girls had to shower. And I was more developed than my peers, so we get into the showers and my peers were fascinated by my body. So much so that they took it in turns to run into my shower and to grab me here and to grab me here to see what it felt like. And at the time I tried to laugh it off, but it was humiliating.
The white experience versus the black experience is massively different in modern society. And that's not to say that white individuals don't experience racism. But racism against black individuals is getting worse, it's getting more discreet, and it's harder to pick up on. In my short 22 years, I have been a victim of and witnessed a plethora of racist attacks. Brown K. 2021 speaks on how Yolanda Biale was asked if she could be called something else as it was easier. Where is the change? Why do hundreds have the same personal experiences? We cannot be progressive without change and empathy. Ibrahim Kamit, 2021, says,
The beauty standard is always changing, and it's aimed to make you insecure so they can sell more. Profit-greedy industries work with media outlets to offer us a distorted perception of ourselves, and then use that distorted self-image to sell us remedies for the distortion. Hard to embrace our natural selves when for so long the representation in the media has been primarily Caucasians and Eurocentric features.
Never, never, never shall be. This is what freedom means.
The UK is free of institutional racism and is a shining model of diversity. That's according to a recent report commissioned by the British government after last year's Black Lives Matter protests.
Vice News 2022. We have the Hair Act, World Afro Day, and the Halo Code, all implementing a positive change towards black identity. But are we making a difference? First, we must collectively acknowledge black history and black beauty. We need to understand, as a society, the tropes, unknown biases, and microaggressions we carry out on a daily. Because
if hair was just hair, we wouldn't need literal laws in place to protect our hair from society. Hair is power, hair is self-expression, hair is experience, hair is freedom, hair is magical, especially black hair.